Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with LogRocket, where we're talking with Andrew from Speedway Motors about how they increase conversion by 32% by focusing on issue prioritization, performance, and user experience. My name is Matt Arbesfeld. I'm one of the technical co-founders and CEO here at LogRocket. Andrew, maybe you could share a bit of your background.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, I'm Andrew Boellstorff. I've been at Speedway Motors for about 4.5 years. And our teams are focused on building the application that supports speedwaymotors.com and all the underlying infrastructure and technology. Also run our business intelligence team, where we're looking at all of the company's analytics and trying to figure out, it very closely ties into what we'll talk about today, like how do we give our customers a great experience?
Awesome. And maybe for those who are not familiar, what is Speedway Motors?
Yeah, so going back a little bit, Speedway Motors was started in Lincoln, Nebraska, where I'm at, in 1952. Our founder, Speedy Bill Smith, actually started the company with a $300 loan from his wife Joyce at the time, and that was kind of the start of something special. 70 years later, we're still here in Lincoln, and we're a performance auto parts retailer. So if you think about cool muscle cars back from the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, if you think about dirt track race cars on oval track, it's highly likely that we have a product that would fit your needs. When it comes to our product catalog, we're around 100,000+ products, so it's a pretty good size catalog, and that will kind of bleed into when we talk about how do you help our customers find what they're actually looking for, depending on what their application or car is. So Speedway evolved from a small little speed shop here in Lincoln to a catalog. A lot of folks recognize and know the Speedway catalog, to evolving into a number of different business units, the biggest one being the website speedwaymotors.com. We have a couple of retail stores. One's a parts counter here in Lincoln, and then we have a location in a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona, as well as selling on marketplaces like Amazon, Walmart, and eBay. So when I kind of came to Speedway, I had there's some background in e-commerce overall, and we'll talk a little bit about some of what our team talks about as a e-commerce equation. So if you look at revenue for an e-commerce site and you break it down to its constituent parts, you have sessions, you have AOV, and you have conversion rate. At the time, we were seeing, plenty of growth in sessions. Our acquisition channels were working pretty well, but we kind of saw an erosion of conversion rate over time. And we kind of stepped back and was trying to assess and take a look at that, and then come up with a strategy on what we were going to do. So the focus was really having a great customer experience from the very first time they touch Speedway Motors to when they're hopefully getting a package of their part that's arrived in the mail and they're installing it on their vehicle. And as our customers build their vehicles up, oftentimes they're kind of working in certain sections of the car. So you might be working on an engine, and then you have all these different engine components that you're wanting to add, or brakes. And so our thought process around that is, hey, if you're working on an area or a project and you're ordering a part, we want to have a great experience for you, so you come back around and keep working on your project with Speedway. Our customers are we'll get into a little bit in this presentation, pretty vocal as far as what they want out of their project, but they're also very appreciative when there's supporting partners that helps them be successful. So that was kind of our mission, was to kind of reverse the trends of what our conversion rates were doing, come up with a great experience for them, and help them be successful at the end of the day.
Awesome. And yeah, you can definitely tell, at least this one visual, the difference there. What were some of the challenges you guys faced when you were tackling that project?
Yeah, when we started diving into it, if we look at that visual and then extrapolate it into, that was a bad desktop experience. And then at the time we were seeing more and more mobile traffic, and to be quite honest, like, we had a pretty poor mobile experience. So right away we kind of saw some pretty big opportunities to be like, okay, we can really have a focus around driving improvements in our mobile experience. And then, okay, how do you do that? And at the same time, like, our product teams were also kind of undergoing a change. So like, we were thinking about, okay, how do we actually move fast, deliver value quickly, but at the same time be safe about it. So we needed something to kind of help us assess, where were customers dropping off, where were the pain points in the bad experience. They seemed to come in the door okay, but they left, relatively quickly without buying something. And that's a key signal to us that they aren't getting value out of it. They were having a poor experience. They weren't finding necessarily what they were looking for. So mobile experience kind of became very top of mind for us. And when and we'll get into the other aspect of performance, that's another problem we were tackling. But like I was saying earlier, like, our customers are pretty vocal and pretty brand loyal. Part of that stems from the catalog days, where they're very used to being able to call into our call center and be able to talk to someone as they would work through a project. And when they run into certain problems with our website, more often than not, the first people they call is our call center. I go, hey, I'm trying to order this thing, but something's not working. In the past, that was pretty difficult for us to try to recreate, because it's always it works on my machine, type of thing. And if you can't recreate an issue, it's very difficult for us to go through and try to solve it. So when it comes to that, we were finding myself, a couple people in our team, our engineers, spending a lot of time, potentially getting bogged down in, what could be an impactful issue, or it could be, someone just had a bad browser session and needed to restart. So maybe it wasn't the most catastrophic, impactful thing in the world, but it was very hard to kind of detect and figure those things out. We had login, but we were lacking in terms of application monitoring. We were very much lacking in front end monitoring.
That makes sense. And I'm guessing as you were updating the mobile app, there were new problems that emerged from those new UIs, and more happening on the front end as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As we modernized and got a little more sophisticated, that brought about further gaps in our instrumentation, and really understanding what was happening. What kind of, and we've had situations even lately where we're doing some pretty unique things, and for certain customers in certain areas of the country on certain devices, they were not having a good time. And it was very hard to actually recreate those issues and actually figure out what was going on. So we'll keep going. It's kind of a silly type of metaphor that we have, but it's very real in terms of, our customers care about performance. They care about performance when they're on the track. They care about the performance of the vehicle when it's in the garage, and they care about the performance of their website based on how frequently they were leaving and not getting to the end of our conversion funnel. So in addition to, what does a great mobile experience look like, just from a usability and UI perspective, a key part of what we focused on was mobile performance, because we know where our customers are at, potentially in rural areas, potentially at the track, potentially in a garage. They're not connected to fiber. They might not have the most modern devices. So we went on, and we're still on a very, performance-centric journey with our website. And this is even before Google started to roll out Core Web Vitals. So we always put a high emphasis on, can we improve the performance of these customers that have bad network and bad hardware. And if we can do that, we can give them a reasonable experience, we're going to kind of raise the bar for everyone. And that's paid, that focus has paid off a lot, as folks like Google have started to roll in Core Web Vitals, and Core Web Vitals have started to play a more impactful role on things like search engine rankings.
Makes sense, especially the network connection issues. I'm sure we've all had that experience where you open a website, but your connection's not great and you just go and do something else. And so making those as fast as possible.
Yeah, if it's laggy, or if you get a white screen, or if you're trying to, search for a part in your garage, it's a big friction point, a huge frustration point if the site you're on won't actually work. I myself am on a little bit of an older device, and my team's like, well, you need to get rid of that dinosaur. But I'm like, well, the iPhone SE is the greatest iPhone that's ever been made. So one, I won't. And two, it's very helpful as we're rolling out new experiences for me to kind of test on that device and make sure it's working well for myself. It's, I want to dog food our own experience, just like our customers are experiencing it. So, this is a challenge for product teams everywhere. Where do you focus on? How do you spend your time? How do you move your organization forward in the best way possible? So, we, in the past, we were at about a 2-week deployment cycle, lots of ceremonies, lots of, manual checking. But when we said, hey, we want to go fast, but we also want to go safe. So that kind of changed the methodology there a little bit, to where we're now deploying multiple times a day. And the only way we can do that is with a solid set of tools that can help us. So, continuously deploying value, is a big emphasis for us, but, it only matters if it's the most impactful things that we can be doing. So we try to take a look from all avenues, from, what can help drive, these different pieces of the e-commerce equation, sessions, AOV, conversion rate, but also, where are the big sticking points and pain points that our customers are having, to continue to help us support our mission to have a great experience for our customers. And so when if you've ever been around digital product teams, sometimes you can kind of fall into a trap of whoever's yelling the loudest gets their things worked on first. And to some degree, that's possibly okay, but in others, you may sacrifice actually impactful things because of, some stakeholder really wants to drive their thing forward. So that's a challenge that I think all digital product teams have. And, it's working on new stuff versus paying down tech debt versus bugs. If you're only working on new stuff, at some point, you're probably only going to be working on paying down tech debt and bugs. So we have to kind of also layer in those efforts as we build as well.
Makes sense. And I'm sure folks in the audience have dealt with similar conversion rate challenges, reproducing issues, performance optimization, and everyone out there's a million things we want to do, but only a certain amount of engineering time allocated to those. So yeah, maybe curious of how you guys tackle those there.
Yep. So when it came to being fast and safe, a lot of the safety part is making sure you have a good process and good set of instrumentation and tools at your disposal. So being able to utilize something like LogRocket in terms of helping us be safe, as well as identifying, okay, where are our customer sticking points and what's making them have a bad experience, has been pretty key for us. There's a little bit before we onboarded with LogRocket while I was here, and I would say while we were on a different APM, we just had a gap in terms of our needs for front end monitoring to be able to recreate those issues, to be able to see dead clicks, to be able to kind of have that bundled experience for us, where we could both see the session but also see the errors that were being experienced, both at an individual session level and then aggregated. So it's very pretty impactful for us. What's been really cool to see is that our engineering team leads have really bought into using it as a tool to answer our experimentation questions as well. And we often talk about, okay, where do you find insights at? You can look at numbers in Google Analytics, but that doesn't tell you why. So you need to pair it up with something qualitative, and either out through talking with customers, but oftentimes just observing how they're operating within your experience can give you really good insights to answer that why question. So that's been pretty huge from us, from dashboarding side of things to looking at, as we roll out different experiences, how it's actually performing. The numbers are one thing, but trying to answer the why behind them is quite another. And a tool like LogRocket has certainly helped us do that. So like Matt was saying, there's only so much engineering time to spend. And if you're trying to track down a rogue issue, in a lot of cases, it's a wild goose chase. And there's a reason why you generally don't estimate bugs or things like this, because it could be a simple, small little issue, or you cannot recreate it, and it's going to take someone a couple days to try to potentially track it down. And even then, that investment might just go to waste, and you might come up with nothing. So what's been helpful for us is myself and another person have a direct relationship with our call center, and whenever they end up getting a call about something, usually I'll be one of the people that take the first pass, just so I'm kind of staying connected to what our customers are doing, and can usually answer the question as far as like what's happening, depending on any given type of problem, whether it's product was mistitled, or there's a technical issue, or shipping was off. A lot of times me and the other person can answer the majority of those questions. That helps our engineering team actually stay focused on the main things. That's pretty important. So we know it goes back to like the prioritization. Unplanned work has a lot of problems when it comes to kicking out impactful issues that we thought we were going to get done in a given sprint period. But when things like this come in and you're only working on trying to debug some issue, it's very difficult to actually complete the sprint work. Something comes in, something has to go, type of deal. So if we can kind of be the front lines to kind of take that and understand what's going on, it's definitely benefited our team. And even if we do have to escalate it to them, we can oftentimes find the LogRocket session to point them to and go, oh, this is a weird JavaScript error. This is roughly how many times it's happening. We had situation a couple months ago where through one of our infrastructure providers, we call it the white screen of death, having those type of situations happen for our customers. And, for our team, it was very difficult to recreate, but luckily LogRocket had been able to catch those for us, so we could know, one, the scale of the problem, something we definitely wanted to fix immediately, but also once we made a fix, because there was some time lag on it, we could kind of watch that problem kind of reduce in impact over time, to where it was mostly eliminated and manageable. So that's been a big help for our team, as we've tried to stay focused, but also tried to use some tooling to be able to best understand what the most impactful, and a lot of times like conversion impacting problems are. On the performance side of things, we use a whole suite of tools, but in going back to, well, performance is one of the key parts of the user experience. We also want to know, where our bottlenecks are for someone. Is it the network? Is it their hardware? What part of our experience is hitting them hard? So we can do some work to go in and address that. As we've focused on mobile, and like I was saying earlier, like I have a pretty old device that I'm dog fooding it on, and if we want a pretty snappy experience for our site, we've got to have some numbers and we've got to have some goals around where we want to hit. So this has been pretty helpful for us to kind of pair up with, maybe folks that are dead clicking or folks that are on our cart page. What type of performance experiences are they getting, and how does it relate to whether or not they actually transacted and converted? So like we were talking about earlier, when it comes to prioritization, there's so many inbound requests and potential problems that we are always kind of working through and dealing with and trying to figure out, okay, how do these things match up to our sprint goals? And the reality is, like, there's only a certain amount of time in the day that you can kind of go through and try to assess impact and breadth of an issue. What's been nice, especially with the LogRocket team, is both the proactive insights, but then also the machine learning that's helping to raise, maybe instead of having 1,000 different types of issues in a week, that would be very difficult for us to kind of sort through and spend time to see if it's actually customer impacting. We're getting a good amount of signal from LogRocket and the tool as far as like what those most impactful items are. And then we can kind of go in and we have the time to go assess, okay, this is how many people experienced it. Okay, this one looks like it's going on behind the scenes and we have a retry. Okay, it's noisy, so we'll address it down the line. But this one, okay, it's a little bit smaller number of folks that got impacted, but their experience was just terrible. Maybe they got the white screen of death situation, and we needed to go in and address that immediately. Or they're not having the payment frame load in our checkout. That makes it pretty hard to actually complete an order if you can't actually pay for it. Those are the things that we would be able to see and find out right away and say, okay, we need to get someone on that immediately. Because the idea also is, in my world, it would be great for us to know all those things ahead of time and fix them by the time someone called in, or someone wouldn't even have to call in. So the whole proactive measure around trying to find and address things versus, okay, now they've called into our customer support agent, they're calling us, something's happened, now we're diving into it. Makes the whole process quite a bit smoother for us and our team. So we've been very pleased with our path on being fast and safe, and the business outcomes have kind of showed that as well.
Yeah, very cool. If you're alerted every minute on something, you just quickly learn to ignore those. And so
Yeah, absolutely.
important to be able to have a good process to find the real issues. So
Yeah, and that's the thing. We have, you know, we look very closely at what our we call on-call health is, and it's sessions from issues from LogRocket, issues from login, issues from APM, and it's always a battle to try to make sure you separate the signal from the noise. Because you're exactly right. If you're always going to alert it for everything, you're going to remove that alert from a tool that's helpful to be able to react in a situation when it's actually impactful. So we don't want people being woken up in the night. We don't want people being distracted. But we do want an indication if it's actually a serious customer impacting, conversion impacting type of problem that we need to hop on.
makes sense. Cool. So I'm going to share a quick demo of LogRocket, just about some of the features Andrew mentioned, and also feel free to put any questions you have in the Q&A there, and we'll address those either at the end or as we're going through the rest of the webinar. So just to start, want to take that first example Andrew's using, where a customer calls into the call center and they have an issue, and usually in the past you'd have to ask for more details from the support agent, or you'd have to go talk to the customer, ask to hop on a Zoom, a lot of back and forth, or maybe you're trying to dig through backend logs. And so with LogRocket, you're able to go in, you can search for that user by email, user ID, or even just the actions they took on your site. And we can click in here, and LogRocket captures essentially a recreation of their experience on the site. So where they clicked, their mouse movement. And a lot of times you'll find the person was just confused, or maybe they missed a form field or something as they were going through things. But if there's a technical error, we put that alongside all your logs, your front-end errors. And then if there is a backend issue, you can go in, click here to see more, and we'll link to your backend APM as well, so you can go and see the trace in the infrastructure and the headers and bodies as well to troubleshoot the issue. Last thing here is we're also capturing all the front-end performance. So like Andrew mentioned, sometimes someone will say, oh, the app is slow. And you're like, is it my app, or are you just on a bad network connection? And so here you can see what type of network connection are they on, what's the network speed. And obviously it will be better if they're on a faster connection, but you're able to see if it's a really bad connection, that could be the cause of their issue. So that's on the more reactive side. On the more proactive, like Andrew said, they have various processes to look at the errors that are coming in from their application. So here in LogRocket, we surface all the various types of problems. So those are both errors like JavaScript errors or network errors, as well as UX issues like dead clicks, or we have something called a rage click, where someone clicks a lot and something's not working. And for those who've used tools like this in the past, especially at scale, you probably don't see only 45 here. This was probably like thousands and thousands of errors. And so it can quickly become ignored. Something new in LogRocket is what we call severity, where we use machine learning to look at how frustrated are your users by this problem. And those get surfaced to the top of this list. And what we found is that whereas normally maybe 1 of 10 or 1 of 8 issues will actually be real issue, with this severity score, you can get to closer to 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 issues will be actually real. And then from there, you can go in and you can click, you can understand more about this error, like the line of code from your stack trace. And you can obviously also watch a session of that user. And then last thing I'll show is our conversion funnel. So related to, say, the checkout process. So I'm sure everyone has a funnel like this in their Google Analytics or in their analytics tool to see the drop off. With LogRocket, you can also go deeper to see, like Andrew said, the why behind why someone's maybe not getting to the checkout page. So you can drill down and see at the specific point of drop off. You can watch some sessions of people going to that drop off. And then we also link these to any errors or issues that people experienced along that drop off journey. So another good way of finding opportunities to improve the conversion rate. Yeah, and then finally, what were some of the, so you joined, yeah, how long ago did this project start, Andrew, and what were some of the results?
Yeah, about 4.5 years ago, is kind of when we really got rolling with this. And yeah, I should say also my background is product management, and then kind of worked into working closely with the digital team. But that's why, you know, I'm still very involved in very much understand what our customer touch points and problems are. And you know, with everything that we've done, you know, we've been really excited to see that improvement across the board in our conversion as we have, you know, rebuilt different sections of the site with you know, that focus. You know, great experience is specifically mobile, really good performance, and it's, you know, shown at the end of the day. And that's what our team cares about. You know, at this point, they're asking about, you know, what's going to assert success as much as I am. And you know, they're in, one of the cool things that they've been doing lately is, you know, having all the different team, this is engineers, go out, take a different experience that we've built, so maybe like a category page, spend some time watching sessions, being in issues, and then have a little almost like a design session to talk about, okay, what did we observe? Is there any ideas that come out of that we want to experiment with to help, you know, drive things like these further? So it's, you know, a little piece here, a little piece there, kind of ends up adding up over time to a really big and cool result. So like we were talking about earlier, just being able to see what those high impact issues are from a instrumentation standpoint has helped us, you know, one, be able to help our team focus on the current goals of the sprint first. But when these things do come up, allows us to say, okay, we need to move some things out to be able to address this, because this amount of customers is not having a good time. And when, you know, there's some tactileness to having an engineer sit down and watch, you know, someone experiencing like a white page type of issue or not being able to pay, that really, you know, helps the team stay motivated around, okay, we got to get this fixed now. This isn't just another rando bug that someone brought up. This is a big deal that we need to get after it. We talked earlier about on call and how big a deal that is for, you know, someone's quality of life working with our team. We have a rotating on call, but for the most part, like we don't want people to having to be addressing the website or some type of issue after hours. We don't want to have them get woken up. we want to be able to proactively spot these errors and address them during our normal working time. Because if someone's on call and they're getting woken up every 2 hours because some non-issue, basically, they're going to have a bad day the next day. They're going to hate on call and they're going to ignore the alerts, and they're not going to enjoy working for our team. So we have to put a high emphasis on, okay, what's the state of our on-call health, and being able to have a tool like LogRocket to help us sort that signal from the noise is pretty important in helping us do that.
Awesome. Well, no, it's really exciting, and yeah, very cool how sort of some early results in conversion and get everyone rallied behind that, and having engineers and product people all working together and coming up with ideas creates just such a fun environment for building software and also creating great results. So
yeah, and it puts some purpose behind what they're doing. Like, I'm sure there's been people on a team that are probably here and did a project and you're like, I don't know exactly why we're doing it, someone told us to do it, and there's really no like clear-cut success criteria. Here our team's pretty dialed into what those components of that e-commerce equation are: sessions, AOV, conversion rate, and are trying to figure out how we solve the problems to move those levers in the right direction.
very cool. So I know we covered a lot. Yeah, happy to take any questions. So there's a Q&A button there, and feel free to type in any questions you have for us. Yeah, someone asked, can the presentation be shared? So we'll be sending out the recording of this after. So as long as you're registered, you should get a link to the recording. One question is around how you track performance. What are sort of the key North Star metric you use for measuring performance, both on web and mobile?
Yeah, one of the things we are looking at pretty closely is, anymore, a lot of the breakdown of what's inside of core web vitals. So, first time to first paint, largest contentful paint, layout shifts, are all top of mind things that we look at really closely. We look at it in terms of, and even like when we're building a new experience, we have different goals around each of those. So at some point it might be hit these numbers for these metrics at P75. So 75% of the people would have this or better score. As we start getting closer to launching it, that jumps up to P90, and then the ultimate goal is a good score at P95. And there's always something changing in technology. Our customers aren't static either. They're going from their house to their garage to driving down the interstate. So even in the case where, okay, they have a bad network, that's still incumbent upon us to be able to give them a good experience under those bad network conditions to the greatest extent possible.
Well, so one question here is, how do you track analytics for items in the cart, and how do you incentivize changes to the code versus changes in the UI? So I think it's kind of, yeah, how do you think about, we talked a lot about conversion rate, but maybe optimizing and measuring AOV and
so this is definitely kind of AOV type of question. The thing about our products is generally they can always bolt onto something. So there's always generally something that will be sold with the product. In the case of our stuff, a lot of our customers will get a little bit upset at us if they don't, like, if we sell them something and we don't say, hey, you're also going to need this. So maybe it's a carburetor, and if to install it correctly, you're going to need a gasket or a bolt set. They buy the carburetor, they block the time out to install it, and then they go and they're like, okay, guys, why didn't you tell me I needed this? So there's good opportunity for us to be able to use our recommendation engine to be able to upsell those. In terms of how we look at doing that, it's kind of based around a couple things. We do some, so in the instance of like the carburetor, we might know based on the part type what's most likely to be bought with it. So there's some affinity mechanisms there. In other cases, someone has browsed around the site for a while. We might be able to kind of pick out what their interests are, and in addition to recommending products, like we might also recommend articles to them that they could be interested in. We have a blog on our site called the Toolbox that has installation guide type of articles, different focuses on members of the community, and depending on where you're racing or what sanctioning body you're in, or what year or model or make type you are, you want to know about Chevy stuff, you don't want to know about Ford stuff. You want to know about oval track stuff, you don't want to know about drag race stuff. So we have to kind of take all that into account, because that makes a big difference on the great experience that we was talking about earlier. We continually give them products or tools or what have you that don't actually fit what they're needing, then it's a disservice to them. But at the same time, we have to offer that, because it's also a disservice to them if we don't, because they're going to waste their time and get upset at us if we don't tell them what they need.
Cool. And then tell us about the security of tracking events and kind of what you choose to capture versus how you capture data from clients.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely pieces of personal information that we don't want to track, and I think LogRocket does a good job as far as like calling that out as well. So obviously we don't want to track credit cards, passwords, anything like that. It's not in our interest at all to do that, and it's definitely not in our customers' interest to do that. But Matt, maybe you can talk also a little bit about some of the what's built into LogRocket to handle some of the security.
Yeah, but in LogRocket, I think as general practice, capturing what you need to solve problems and not kind of extraneous information. And so LogRocket, we provide a lot of tools for doing so. And then always suggest people take a look at the privacy policies on your website, and just make sure you're familiarized with that to know what you're disclosing to customers. Any final questions? Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks so much, Andrew, and thank you for the questions. Anyone who's interested to learn more, feel free to reach out on our website and via the chatbot, or you can also start a free trial and play around with LogRocket. But yeah, thanks so much, Andrew. It was great to have you come share the story.
Thanks, Matt.
See you all.